Hi everyone, my name is Yadira and today I'll be sharing the analysis of my findings during the interviews I conducted for our class. I was inspired to do some research on how parents' relationships among themselves and their children influence the children's overall beliefs, gender ideologies, and moral compasses. I also wanted to see what those same children's living situations were like and the division of housework in their living situation. That way I could have more data available in order to infer a more precise conclusion. With that in mind, I interviewed a total of 3 individuals, 1 male and 2 females. The male and one of the females, for privacy purposes, let's call them Seth and Sally. They're my main interviewees. That is, they are the 2 people I initially interviewed. The other female, and for privacy purposes, let's call her Jane. She was only interviewed so that I could include some variety in my points of view. I asked the 3 individuals the same 6 questions, to which I got varied responses from each. Let's get to know who these individuals are, then I'll share their responses and analyze what we found. Our first interviewee is Seth. He's a 21-year-old, good-looking Hispanic and white male living in Santa Ana, California. Born at Talbot Medical Center in Fountain Valley, Seth is a field estimator with a high school diploma whom has 2 brothers and 1 sister. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he is single, but you'll never know who he is. Our next interviewee is Sally. Sally is a single 21-year-old beautiful white female living in Anaheim, California. Born in San Diego, Sally is a full-time student with a recently acquired Associates of Arts degree whom has 1 brother. Jane, our third interviewee, is a married 45-year-old beautiful Chinese and white female living in Yorba Linda, California. Born in Bloomington, Minnesota, Jane is a controller for a company with some college and no siblings. She has been married for 23 years and is a mother of 2 girls and 2 twin boys. I'll go ahead and share my interview questions and their responses with you now. My first series of questions was, summarize your parents' relationship/marriage and whether or not it has influenced you. Who are they and are they happily married? What are their daily routines like? What effect has their relationship had on your life? Also, please include anything else that's relevant to their relationship. Seth responded that his mom grew up raised as a Christian and his dad grew up raised as a Catholic. After he and his 2 brothers were born, his dad started questioning his beliefs in Catholicism and why he should be practicing that over Christianity. So after many months of doing research and conversing with his pastor, he converted to Christianity. And that's what the foundation of their family is based on. So the parents raised the kids to believe in God and the love of God and how he is the most important aspect of their lives. Seth definitely believes that his parents are in love, but he does also state that they are far from perfect. And Seth is a lot closer to his mom because of the fact that she's more willing to listen to him, whereas Seth's dad would be more willing to shut him out in a case instead of hearing him out. So he does admit that he's closer to his mom. And he stated that they have a traditional setting in the sense that they're fortunate enough to have only his dad work and his mom stay at home ever since he could remember. And right now, no one's ever really home because everybody works except his little sister and his mom. Sally stated that her parents split up when she was about 6 or 7 years old. And as old as she is now, 21, she honestly doesn't remember a time when they were together. And this may seem other people in that same situation feel poorly, but she states that it doesn't bother her. And according to her mom's schedule is that she doesn't work anymore, so she falls and rises at her own whim with little to no regard to the son's relative position, and I quote. And she said that her father works every day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And he'll typically wake up early on his own and take the dogs out for a walk. And after he gets off work, she and him will watch their afternoon bad television routine and then they'll eat some dinner. So they have typical routines all around. And she stated that her parents' relationship affected her more when she was in high school than any other time. And she also stated that her mother was very defensive and sensitive about her having a good relationship with her father. And frankly, she must admit that most of her tantrums and the memories that she has with her mom have fled her mind. Jane's response was that her mom and dad married when they were 19 years old. She's not sure if they were ever happy because her mother divorced her father when she was 6 due to his adultery. And after that, her father never initiated contact with her, so she grew up without a father/father figure. Her and her mom never spoke about him during her childhood, and through her teen years, she never had trust in men growing up until they gave her a reason to trust. It's obvious that people react differently to the same situations. I found that based on the people I interviewed, Seth, the person with the most stable foundation, reflected his parents' ideologies, and his future family goals mirrored that of his mom and dad. Jane reacted to her parents' relationship by losing trust and respect for all men. Sally admits that her parents' relationship strongly affected her and mildly hints that she represses bad memories of her mom. Describe your living situation. Who do you live with? How do you eat? How much do you pay for rent? What are you responsible for? Also, please include anything else that's relevant to your living situation. Seth said that he lives at home with his parents and they provide him with food. As long as he goes to school, he doesn't have to pay for rent. Besides that, he pays for everything else, including his education. Sally said that she lives with her dad, and luckily he doesn't make her pay rent. They share most of the household responsibilities, although he does cook a lot more frequently than she does. Both Seth and Sally have it pretty good. They're still living at home. Based on their responses, I noticed that Seth's living situation has more structured expectations than Sally's, meaning he conditionally does not have to pay rent if he continues to go to school, and he still has to fund any other expenses that may arise by continuing to work every day. Sally, she's going to school by choice, she doesn't have a job, and she doesn't have a condition as to whether or not she has to pay rent. I find that there can possibly be a connection between the two interviewees' living situation and the condition and status of their parents' relationships. Describe your views on what an ideal relationship/future goals would be. If you are in a relationship, describe that relationship in comparison to your goals. What qualities would be important when choosing a partner or dating? Would you have kids? Who would earn the money and who would do the housework? What are your views on marriage? Also include anything else that's relevant to this question. Seth believes that it would be nice to be with someone who has similar interests and hobbies as him, and also someone that enjoyed similar activities. That person would have to be able to communicate well, and important qualities would be that they'd have to be confident and comfortable talking to his family, love the beach, and like doing stuff outside. He wants 4 kids, but might want more. And he definitely believes that he will be the provider, and he would love for his future wife to stay home unless she really has this career that she wants to pursue, then she can go for it, but he would really rather have her stay home with the kids. And in his ideal relationship, he would do the yard work and his wife would clean most of the inside, but of course he would help out. But he understands people are raised differently, so who knows what he lands with. And he also believes that marriage is meant between a man and a woman, and something that is for a lifetime, and that divorce is a last resort, only when the other person is making things impossible or being abusive or ridiculous or anything of the sort. Sally believes that it's important to find someone who values themselves and their journey to success. She thinks it's pretty hard to believe that someone can take a relationship seriously while simultaneously not taking themselves seriously or waiting for something miraculously to fall in front of them. She thinks that relationships shouldn't be anyone's first priority, especially not during a time when you're developing your career. She would absolutely love to have kids, but in a household, it's more important that all members are contributing in some way above anything else. She thinks that both spouses should have an income so that the stress of being the primary breadwinner isn't put solely on one person. If both spouses do have the income, then the housework is equally distributed amongst them. She doesn't think household responsibilities can really be categorized into which spouse is supposed to do them. And further, she believes that marriage is a formal and legal binding way of loving someone. Jane states that she expects a partner to be honest, trusting, loyal, and loving in a relationship. There should be same goals and a commonality that joins the partners. And communication is key, regardless of the intensity, anywhere from stating that you're mad or that you're going to the bathroom. It's consideration of the other person's feelings at all times. No one's time matters more than another's. Once you stop considering the other person, then he or she doesn't matter to you anymore. And chores should be even, and the evenness is translatable differently per couple. It's based on what each person can handle, and the evenness should be mutually agreed upon. Again, the communication thing. So who does the housework simply depends on each person's liking and who can stand doing it more than the other. Typically, in Jane's experience, both partners work and the female handles the financials. These responsibilities responses reminded me of the gender ideologies from the second shift. I find that Jane has a more traditional / transitional ideology because she represents a lot of the traditional points of views. However, she acknowledges that both people in a relationship should work. Seth is traditional all the way. Sally seems to have more of an egalitarian point of view because of her thoughts on equality in the home and her strong opinions towards taking oneself seriously. Do you ever see a division of work at home based on gender? If so, what are the men in the family in charge of, and what are the women in charge of? If not, why do you think that is? Seth doesn't really see a division of work at home based on gender, but he does state that if both people work, then the duties will have to be divided because of the fact that they're both busy. Sally states that the division of work in the home is pretty prevalent. In her mom's household, for example, it's her responsibility to clean the house, while it's her boyfriend's responsibility to provide the income. In her household, however, in Sally's, the roles aren't as prevalent. She assumes that it's because one gender is the parent and the other gender is the child. Jane states that most of the time and in her surroundings, the women take care of the household and the men take care of the quote-unquote more masculine chores. And she says that it was more prevalent in the 50s and 60s that men took care of the finances, but she thinks that's turned around now. These responses reminded me of when I read up on the functionalist paradigm in Split Dreams. Men and women are divided into a public and a private sphere, and the private sphere is the household work and child rearing, while the public sphere is the bread earning and I guess the lawn mowing. I agree with Sally when she states that the division of housework based on gender is prevalent. In conclusion, I found that although parents do influence the lives of their children, the children react differently on a case-by-case basis. This brief experience in conducting research opened my eyes as to how interesting it is to collect information and make assumptions about it. It would be interesting to conduct a more in-depth research experiment in order to render more socially accurate results.